My guest today is Diane Lee, award winner and founder of the Academy for Yoga Training. Diane is also an angel card reader and a clairvoyant. She has traveled across the world and trained with some of the best people in their fields. She's an authentic woman, compassionate, very gifted, and beautiful inside and out. Diane, welcome to my channel and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You are very welcome. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you, Diane. So, Diane, I thought we could start perhaps with when you were a child, where you were perhaps 5 years old, because I've read it on your website, or maybe even earlier, that you said that you were connected. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, definitely. So my first clairvoyant experience that I kind of link back to was very, very vivid. It was a situation where my wonderful grandmother on my dad's side was unwell, and she was resting in bed. It was at the weekend and my mum was in the room with her, and I was combing her hair. I was in very close proximity to her. And out of the blue, I just looked her in the face and I said, "Granny, you're going to die." And she was very taken aback. She didn't brush it off, didn't think it was something that children said probably normally. And it had quite a profound effect on her, to the point where my mum had to sort of calm the situation and sort of say, "Oh, she's always saying that to me. Don't worry, it's nothing, it's nothing." But it really unsettled her. We were based in Norfolk at the time and she was in Yorkshire. So I think later that afternoon we actually left to drive back home, but we were back up in Yorkshire within the week. She passed.
Amazing. And it's incredible. I've heard that before, actually, other people saying that as a 5-year-old, of course, we haven't developed, we say up to 7, we still remember quite a lot. But of course, we don't have the filters.
No.
No. And your poor grandma heard that, and then she passed away.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how did you feel then as a 5-year-old?
I guess I must have known that I had that conversation, but I think when you're a child, you're so present, and we micro-analyze everything a little bit more when we're older, and we would, "Oh my gosh, was I responsible for that?" I don't remember feeling any sense of responsibility at all, but I just must have known. And when I look back, I had such a lot of vivid experiences when I was a little girl. I remember being in my cot with a nappy on and, holding on to the side of the cot. My mum and dad were in bed. And I remember so many photographs, like the square footage of one of my homes that I was in when I was 18 months old. So there's so many things. And when I've spoken to people and they said, "I haven't got any memories before the age of 5," it was only when I was starting to speak to so many different people that they had a similar experience of not being able to remember anything before 5. And I thought, gosh, even then, I remember everything about my childhood, every detail about my childhood. And yeah, I guess it must have started from a young age.
That's amazing. Now, I wanted to ask you, after that experience as a 5-year-old, did you keep the channel open, or because sometimes parents can say something to us and it destabilizes us and we can just shut it. So how was it for you within the family, and were they supportive as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I definitely kept my channel open. because there was other experiences with dates around family adoptions and lots of incredibly vivid dreams and dates and sequencing and knowing that things were going to happen. So I don't think I generally shut it down, weirdly, until I was probably in my 20s. And I was fearful. And I remember having really, really disturbing dreams about if I wanted to see apparitions. And it was like a repeat dream for me at a semi-regular basis. And I would always go to my dreams. I could rewind my dreams. I could have my dreams in color. I could port in my dreams where I was going to different places. So I could direct them. But one of them was, do you want to see ghosts? Do you want to see people in a figure form? And at that time, I kept going, don't you dare. Don't you dare. And I would physically wake myself up from the dream. And I could either choose whether I wanted to return to the dream, or I would change the reality when I was conscious but sleepy to not return to the dream, depending on the content of it.
And who did you think was asking you? Were you aware of the kind of energy at that time that you were talking to or asking?
I think it's only recently that I have put two and two together and thought, I think that was another layer of questioning whether I wanted that kind of gift brought into the fore. And whilst I don't want to maybe go up, you know, and go to a place where there's a lot of energy around that and see anybody in human world, if you like, I do get a lot of that coming through in readings. So I speak to people's past relatives. I had a beautiful experience actually a couple of weeks ago where that happened. Past animals, they come through in readings as well. So I'm not scared of certain things. I just choose, I think, which form they come in and which kind of sense you want to develop more of.
So would I be right, maybe, Diane, to think that they actually heard you when you ask, don't you dare, or you said, don't you dare? It's like, I'm okay for some things, but not to have a ghost in front of me or someone, and you know, it's physical, because that could be quite scary, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And also the way I conduct the angel readings is very, very high vibration, light filled, love filled, connecting to the highest vibrational source. What I was fearful of was, who am I letting in? What type of energy am I letting in if I haven't prepared? And there's dark energy that comes in.
Right.
You know, so I don't want to welcome that.
So what do you do? How do you prepare to sort of have a very supportive environment through the beings that wants to talk to you? And we're talking about angels when I say the beings?
Yes, yes. Angels and permission for relatives to come through, for loved ones. So permission really to go into the other world, to go into past energies, or births as well, or people that are close to passing, people that are close to death, and the portal of that. I have a specific routine. So I have prayers. I clear the energy of the room. I sage. I light candles. I cut cords. So I ask my angel guides and spirit helpers and guardian angels to be with me, and also for the other person, when they're receptive and open, to honor their light and to come through for them in their highest divine good.
Yeah, working together in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
For both energies to work in harmony and unison. Diane, you know, when you say to cut cords, some people might not know what it means. Would you like to explain?
Yeah, so we are. So one analogy I really liked was, imagine you wake up in the morning and you've, just like you, Isabel, in your beautiful top, you come out of a fantastically deep sleep and you feel rested, and you are a pure being of light. You have a white suit on, and during the day, not everyone's energy is like that. Your energy might dip in and out, and you have a bit more dissonance in the heart. Someone cuts you up in the on the drive to work. So during the day, I think about it as having blemishes thrown onto your white suit. So imagine that interaction. People are all energetic beings. You can't get rid of energy. Energy changes on a regular basis. And if you've had altercations with people because you're trying to move beyond your own conditioning, your own lack of resentment or anger or fear or frustration or desire, apathy, guilt, shame, etc. So all of the lower vibrations where we sit more in a victim and a martyr mentality rather than a reflective and trying to be joyous and trying to see adversities as gifts, because we can be in difficulties, so we can't yet see them as gifts because we're struggling. So I try to think about all of those situations, people or places, or any fears that are holding me back, and I try to regularly think about the attachment to that, to cutting away anything that's attached that is pulling me down, that is holding me back from evolving, holding me back from trusting the source, trusting God, trusting the universe, trusting Mother Earth, trusting Father Sky, the womb, whatever your beliefs are, and to move beyond those limitations.
I think that's so beautiful because it's really being not only in your own energy, but really facilitating the person who wants your help to feel as good as possible with you. So it reminds me of really that trust, and they must feel it even unconsciously.
Yeah.
Those attachments are really interesting because when I speak about attachment in my work, when I do hypnosis, it's very much the attachment of people that people have maybe with other people who do not serve them anymore, or, you know, attacking them for some reason or another, or not being nice, or just sucking the energy out of them. And we can actually cut the link so that they are free to be who they are. And we're not actually harming anyone for doing that. It's not harming the person, it's not harming the person that is involved, that is not in the room. It's just an image, isn't it, that we actually work with, like a metaphor, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think, having read a lot around conditioning and how we act out our own perceived hurts and all of those lower vibrations we were talking about, there's a lot of people in pain, there's a lot of unhappy people, there's a lot of people playing out triggers. And I've been triggered, many times before. How I behaved 2 years ago or 6 months ago is very much about what was going on in that environment. And you look back, and instead of being unkind to yourself, you're compassionate. And as a perfectionist, you have to let go of that and say, you don't have to be a perfect version of yourself all the time. We are here. This isn't a dress rehearsal, but we haven't necessarily got a conscious ability to think that we have been here before. So we're working with the tools. I think the most important thing with our own work is that we take accountability of our reactivity. If someone's triggered us, it's a fantastic tool to say, what is it about that person or situation or feeling that I need to work on myself, because
Yes.
that's a wound.
Acting like a mirror, really, and then you realize through that what you still have to work on. And they say sometimes your enemy are your best friends.
Yeah.
And it's true, isn't it? In some ways, it's painful at the time, but then we realize that there was a huge lesson to be learned.
Definitely.
So, Diane, I wanted to ask you as well about the roles of our beautiful angels. Could you tell us perhaps a little bit about them? Maybe who you work with, what do they look like to you, and what are they here for around us?
Yeah, definitely. So my kind of personal experience of angels are that they are, I mean, my sort of my guardian angel, my angel guide
Mhm.
that's been assigned to me. She's beautiful. She is so much fun, and she is non-judgmental, pure consciousness, pure love, serenity, support, guidance, and protection. And I call upon her and any other helpers and healers and guardian angels for that specific situation to be close on a regular basis, because it's not an assumption that they're going to come and help, because they're sitting back and letting free will do its
Sure.
call.
And you have to ask first, haven't you? You have to call them.
I call them to be close, especially if I'm feeling vulnerable and I want extra support and love and guidance. Please just come and give me a little hug and some strength. And they're always there. There's never any judgment, never any guilt. We're doing our best. So they just feel like home. They feel like the best version of a mother, the best version of a father, the most unconditional love that you can have around you. And I had the most beautiful experience several years ago, and my mum passed almost 17 years ago to the day. And she's visited many, many times before, but more historically than recently, because I think people have their own stuff to work on in the afterlife. And I also don't need to call upon my mum, and kind of don't need that support. But one morning I woke up and I cannot explain the experience that I've had. It was the most beautiful experience of my life in terms of the feeling. It was a feeling of absolute serenity and joy, like nothing I will ever experience
Wonderful.
in this life. And I believe that the Holy Spirit was in my body, and that is it was so profound. And it was around 2016, if
It
not before.
makes it
And I
makes sorry. You
sorry,
can
it coincides with a really specific date. It was another the exact date that my goddaughter was born. It's the date my grandmother passed. It all unites in that. And I believe, there are certain correlations of dates or people that you meet in your spirit family in life that, oh my gosh, of course you're born on that day, because that day also represents this and represents that. So it's kind of bonds you together more.
definitely, and I encourage people to look at that in their own lives, because sometimes you can really have answers to questions, or at least, just sort of ponder about it and try to work out what it means for you.
Yeah.
So your angels come to you, your beautiful angels, they come to you, and how do you perceive them? Is it just a knowing that they're there? Do you maybe hear something, or do they touch you? How does it work for you, Diane?
Yeah. So when I channel for someone else, for example, I have a notepad beside me. So I do all the attunement before they've even come online or in person. And say it was an online session like we're doing today. There's no way that it's my writing, because the downloads that come through are way too quick. I doubt myself sometimes, but that's me, not the angels talking. And I say, how is that of relevance? Really? And there's something really specific about, I had it today actually with a client I was massaging, and I said, you've been to Devon, but you're going further west. I said, it's really prevalent, the word P. And they said, oh, that's really unusual. I'm off to Pembrokeshire and I've just back from near Paynton in Devon. And I said, of course. And then I might be going to, I'm going to Sicily. And I said, well, of course, Palermo. So there's 3 P's there, isn't there? And they just sort of looked at me. And because they're open, they didn't mind massage session. And I said, well, of course it's because you're open. And then they started saying, but I trust you, and I've trusted you from the minute I met you. And I think that's the thing, when you're attuning, I just get downloads, and I'll sort of say, oh, hang on a minute, what else do I need to say? They're just saying this specific word for you. Does that make sense? And they said, oh my gosh, my father used to say that to me. What an unusual word that you wouldn't possibly know. So I have these little back and forward conversations to the point where I'm laughing because I'm going, really? Is that me saying it? And it's, of course, oh no, of course I wouldn't say it like that. You are cheeky with your personality. So it's really hard to explain, but it's more of a knowing that I'm having a conversation, and that conversation is so fast and flowing that it couldn't possibly be the way that my subconscious mind is working, because there's information I wouldn't know about that person. I've only just met them.
But when you're writing, it's automatic writing, isn't it?
Yeah,
that you're doing. It's
just
amazing. Yeah.
It's so fast, and it's, oh my gosh, where's all this coming from?
And is that when you are with a client, or is it before you see them that you do the automatic writing?
Yeah, usually before, actually. So I'm being told this is of importance. And so when they come onto the chat, I have to pause sometimes and say, oh, sorry, we need to cut the cords, and we need to, do the processing of making sure I'm cutting. But I'm so excited to share that I said, look, I've got to get this out, and they're saying this, they're saying this, they're saying this, and then we'll ground. So sometimes I say it before, and sometimes I'll just pause myself, and we'll do the cutting, and we'll cleanse and tone and moisturize the session. We'll bring prayers.
Tell me about what kind of issues people might want to come and see you, or advice or clarifications.
Yeah, that's a good question as well. It's I've had people that have come about their work, so their career, what's going on there. They're having difficulties with their boss, their love life. They want to know if their romantic partner is close, or whether, I had a lady asking whether or not she wasn't sure about having a baby. So you have to be quite sensitive to all this, because it's, again, this free will, and it's not saying, oh no, you absolutely shouldn't, because that's not for me to say. It's what's being channeled for their inquiry.
Sure. Yeah. But do you use the angel cards?
Yes.
So do you use the angel cards all the time in your readings, or do you start with that and then the information are downloaded? How does that work?
Yeah, I usually feel the downloads first, because I've been tuning with them. It's, the way I see it is, imagine, so there was a in the laboratory of Philadelphia University, I think it was in 2011, and they were trying to measure psychic phenomena, just like they were in a light box. So if you're measuring the speed of light, this is how fast the speed of light is. So they were measuring predictions and premonitions. And in the light box, they couldn't capture it because it's faster than the speed of light. So the way I see it is, you trust me, I'm attuning to this ether above my head, this by several feet up into the portal. And there's like a travelator, and it's like a magnetic travelator above my head. So every thought that you've got in your head, every worry, every decision, depending on what you're allowing into that vortex that's of importance, maybe you're stressed, I'm going up there and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to gravitate above my head. I'm going to go beyond this human form, and I'm going to pick out what you've allowed to go into that vortex, and then you get the downloads.
So would you say that the angels in that case are the in-between? You know, you go there, you actually are in tune with them, and they actually pull in the information for you to relate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Say that you know, that channeling is for their best interest. They are surrounded by angelic love.
That's what's amazing about angelic love, is that even when you take a card, it's always positive, isn't it? It's always good advice.
Always.
Yeah.
So there might be stuff that, you know, people have been struggling with in their career or their home life balance or their family situation, or love and romance and relationships. But the idea of angelic card reading is that you know, the way I do it is I look at their strengths. What strengths have they had from the past? What's the past taught them? What are the skills that they're bringing forwards into the present moment? What are the current present moment challenges, you know, or realities of the situation? And then moving forwards, what does the future look like? Will there be obstacles in someone's way? But drawing from the skills of the past, how those obstacles can be navigated and how all of the cards fit together so that they've got a balanced reading. So they leave with a renewed sense of hope and trust. Because most of us are leading with our ego. We're going, well, why am I not getting it in this time scale? I'll tell you how it needs to happen. If you relinquish your ego, we can't relinquish it, that otherwise we wouldn't know to protect ourselves from fight and flight, but we relinquish the need to do it in the time scale that we expect and the exactness of what we expect. And we allow angels and the universe and to guide us in the best way for our growth.
It's all positive. And what you're seeing as well, you know, through your downloads and the images, the cards, it's also because we're not talking about predicting the future here, but it is the word escapes me right now, but it's the potentials that they have, really, that they could put forward, or something to bring them strength and courage. Because I presume a lot of people, when they come and see someone like you or even like me, it's often because there is an issue and they need to look at it. So when you talk about the cards, Diane, and you put the cards down, that's after, usually, if I understand right, after you've had a connection already. So do they actually help you to get more information, to get your psychicness sort of getting it bigger, and maybe more things are coming? How would you put it in your own words?
Definitely. So they do. It depends very much on the person. It's really unique to the reading. But the cards there's no coincidence they've been picked. They are sent for the exact moment of time that needs to be captured for that person. it isn't always really obvious why the cards are picked, and it's like, oh, I'm not sure what that situation is. But then there'll be different words coming through, there'll be different people coming through, different messages coming through. So all of that sort of psychic feedback is coming through, and yeah, just situations that I couldn't possibly know. I had an amazing situation where, oh, it was so lovely. It was about 3 weeks ago, and a lady's father just walked into the room. I mean, I physically saw him open a door, and he came and just was the gentlest of characters with white hair. He had a really good head of white hair, and he sat down in a different dimension, but with me. And I said to the lady, I said, your dad's just walked in. And I said, has he got a mop of really good white hair? I said, he's of average height, he's about 5'9". I said, he's fairly stocky across his chest. He's not the loudest person. He's walked into the room. He's doesn't need to be center of attention. He does things quite quietly. He's a really good-natured man. He's lovely. And he came in. And then I was relaying to her, he used to call her Pet. And I said, oh, he says, oh, well done, Pet. You know, believe in yourself more. You need to trust yourself. I'm in a really great place. I'm healed. I'm not in pain. Please don't worry about me. I left peacefully without you being in the room, because that was how it was meant to be. And she just said, oh my gosh, I wasn't with him when he passed. He used to say to me, you'll be all right, Pet, believe in yourself, you know, and other things. And she was really comforted. And I said, he's just asking you to stop worrying as much.
That's amazing. You know, and that for me,
quite emotional.
yeah, I know. It's such a nice thing that you're saying and you're bringing forward here, because that potentially can actually change somebody's wellness, well-being
Yes.
in their life, especially when they're grieving and they haven't sorted things out for themselves, or they're feeling guilty. It's so important to say those messages. And sometimes, you know, when I work on people doing my healing sessions myself with Flahuchi, I do have those messages, or sometimes those colors, or sometimes animals coming in. And I'm thinking, should I really say that? That doesn't make much sense. But actually it does. And it doesn't matter if it didn't make sense, but it's important that you say, just in case it does make sense to them, because it could be an important thing, just like you just say with this gentleman.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, we do doubt ourselves. And I'm thinking, really? Is that going to make any sense? I mean, more and more used to that, because I think, just say it. Just say it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then I may have relayed it slightly differently or incorrectly in that moment, or they're not ready to hear something.
Of course.
It was a huge comfort and strength and positivity and peace. And she said, I'm so pleased he's okay, and I can really move forwards. And also got a message, and I said, are you thinking of moving? And she sort of gave a wry smile, and I said, I'm being told north, and you're going to live near a playing field. I said, it's a short walk. You walk along, they'll play Sunday football by the house in an estate. And I said, it's a very quiet place, however. I said, but look around, you know, north. And she went into detail about where she's thinking of moving. Said, that's incredible. I've been thinking about it, but feeling guilty about X, Y, Z. And I said, you're destined to move, and you're destined to move to connect more with nature. And she's like, right, I'm on it. I'm on it. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, she's on the path, you know. And when you can be as precise as that, I think it's wonderful, because it just sort of puts a yes onto it, yes, you can, go ahead and give him the permission to do so. But I wanted to add that it's, and I'm sure you'll agree with me here, is that it's really important about information that we get. Sometimes, if you ever get, it's never happened to me, but maybe to you, I don't know. Like, with your grandmother, that somebody may be very ill or may die or get cancer, whatever, is not always very helpful to say that at all. So it's maybe, giving advice about, maybe a visit to the doctor would be good, but not say any more, and maybe reassure them on that. What do you think, Diane?
Yeah, that's a really tricky one, isn't it? I did have a reading with someone a couple of years ago, and I got a really strong sense that they were divorced and their mother-in-law was not going to be here for much longer, or ex-mother-in-law. And I said, oh, and blah blah, your ex's mum is well, and sort of inquiring she's well. And she said, yeah, she's great, yeah, she's really healthy. And I said, okay. And I did say something, and I said, I don't feel she's for this world for much longer. And she died within, it was a month.
Wow, yeah. I
With
think you felt it. You probably felt
oh,
that this person in front of you, she was the in-law, she wasn't the daughter, and she
yes.
could probably take it. Not only that, but maybe it was a help as well to know that. You can feel it as well, can't you, with
It
someone?
was a help, actually, because the way she reacted to, she has a very toxic ex-husband, and the way she reacted to them, they wanted to draw her back into the drama of losing the mum. And it wasn't her position to do that. So what she got from that information was, I'm going to keep my boundaries. I'm compassionate, but it is not my job to be drawn into this drama with you. So yeah, and she texted me a few weeks later, and she said, you'll never believe this. She said, my old ex-mother-in-law died. You were right. So I think when it's proximal to someone, I wouldn't relay that I feel there's a death coming. I've felt it on many times, and it was only reading a recent book. I think it was called All About Love by Matt Kahn. And I'm sure it's that book. And he was the first spiritual teacher that I have ever heard that you can be a gatekeeper for death for your family. I've always been the gatekeeper of death, and it sounds such a horrible title, or a gatekeeper to passing. And I've had it with my grandmothers, I've had it with both parents, I've had it with animals, and I've had it with friends, with their families, to help them grieve. That I'm always the last person to talk to the family member, to reassure them, even though I'm the youngest, even though I'm the least experienced of the family, to reassure them that surrender, let go, don't be scared. Yeah, I just wasn't I wasn't very refined when I was a 5-year-old. I just said it,
No, you had no filter, and that's okay.
yeah.
But you know what I think of you. You're extremely talented in whatever you do. And I've got goosebumps saying that, Diane, because it really feels something very special that you have when you are with people. And comes to mind your amazing dog. So
Oh.
he's lovely, and he's such a big part of your life, isn't he?
He is. He's amazing.
He's
He's been
amazing.
real a real teacher for me, because he could have his own YouTube channel and book, Isabel. He's so naughty. He's he's so full of character, but he's very protective. He's very loyal. He's unconditional and very present and very, very loving. Yeah, he's amazing.
And were you ever able to connect with him in a way on a more subtle level so that you can actually communicate and know what he was thinking or wanting or feel his love?
Yeah, so my current dog, I would say, is a very earthbound dog. He's a dog at this present moment in time. He's a new soul. My last dog, Yogi, was very stoic, very wise, very happy in his own company. And when he passed, I knew the day he was going to pass. There was nothing wrong with him. We had the best morning in the world. Everything was perfect. It was like the last of everything. And it was the only dog walk that he didn't walk away from me. He was glued to my hip. And I was listening to an amazing song. Well, some people's taste, but amazing song. And it says, "Let me love you. Let me love you. I'll never give up. No, no, no. Let me love you." And I just come off a really, really awful period of my life of domestic violence, and off the back of a criminal court case, had civil court cases in the process. And I asked Spirit, please give me the summer with Yogi. And he died 3 days after the summer.
Wow.
And my angel said to me, when you ask him this question, don't blink. And as clear as we're talking today, Isabel, it's the most surreal experience, despite all of the clairvoyance, despite anything else that's happened. I would say it's the most surreal experience of my life because it's so unique. And I looked him in the eye, a foot away from me, and he was lying on my bed. And I said, Yogi, is it time? And as clear as you're speaking to me now, he nodded twice. And I was so freaked out, but in a kind of, oh my gosh, what has just happened? And they said, ask again. And I said, are you sure? And he nodded once. He died that evening.
And that's why they ask you not to blink, because you could have just missed it.
Don't miss it. And he died. You know, I know where we're going to meet. I've visited the underworld with him. I've weirdly had a shamanic treatment, and my friend took me to the same place. He's by a lake. I'm going to see him again. I'm going to be reunited with my family and with my animal. And when Ammo came along, my guy, it's so funny. My guide said to me, you need to get a dog. Your heart's closing. And I'm like, it's too soon. It's too soon. I looked at hundreds of dogs and I said, fine. I said, I'll have a 5-month-old Bracco Italiano, ginger and white, rehome, male. You've got to make him land in my lap. And the first dog of its kind on a rehoming site, he's such a rare breed, but to ask a rare breed and all of those things is impossible. That's not going to happen, right? It's 1 in a million. And I was the first person to speak to the owner after 11 minutes of posting on the site. Tick, 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 tick. He was in Norfolk. My family was in Norfolk. And I said to the chap, what's his name? And he said, Ammo. And I was like, oh, ammo as in ammunition. And I thought, that's a bit violent. I'm a yoga teacher and a clairvoyant. I don't think that's my dog. I think you've messed up. Back to the drawing board. And they said, no, 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 no. Check what it means in Sanskrit. And it means to be unerring in your course to truth and justice. So I just got over a criminal court case. I had ongoing court cases. He's my dog. I picked him up the next week. He landed in my lap.
Wow, that's amazing. You're very good at manifesting, Diane, I must say. That's just so lovely. You know, I think also with your dog, Amo, it's really about you had to be earthbound for that period as well. You had to be very connected with what's going on here. You know, you couldn't be up here because that wasn't going to help you.
No.
You had to have your feet very grounded and anchored so that you could enter a new phase in your life in a very safe way, would you say?
Definitely, that is so true. It's, I think, I was struggling, and struggling with reality and wanted to be up here and wanted to be out of my body because it was so difficult on this earth plane. And he brought me crashing down to earth with a vengeance. I've got this willful, traumatized puppy that I've never experienced this type of relationship before with an animal, because Yogi was so easy in so many ways. We had him I met him when he was 3.5 weeks old. So to have that bond with him, and he was a completely different kettle of fish when I got Amo, but he needed so much reassuring and love. So I needed to pour myself into helping him. And
Yes.
yeah,
And I remember when at that time, I think I did a meditation workshop for your group. And I remember being there, and he was young, and he was with us in the studio just before we started. And you were so, in a way, worried, and you were so eager in a way. You were explaining to people, oh, but don't worry, it's fine, because he was jumping on people, wasn't it? Which was really lovely. But you really felt like a mom, and saying, don't worry, he's a good dog and he's just going to be great.
Yeah, definitely. He's a big boy, so he's kind of, his limbs and his body don't always connect. His proprioception of his body awareness don't always connect with people. So when he comes bounding along at 35 kilos, people may feel they need a bit of reassurance.
Quite heavy, yeah. So let's go back to your sessions. I wanted to ask you, Diane, if you have a favorite one, like, or something that really stick to your mind. Maybe something really special happened. I mean, you've already talked about some. Is there another one that you thought was just amazing in one way or another? It could be.
Yeah, I had a really beautiful angel workshop actually. I was with a few ladies. It was very trusting and very honorable energy within the group, really supportive energy. And everyone was keen to sort of have some feedback. And there was one lady, and she, yeah, that was fun. There was two of them who were sat next to each other, and one lady had her beautiful soulmate cat came through. And it was a gorgeous black and white cat. It was black and it had a little white bit on its sort of breastbone. And the cat was in her living room. So I teleported into her living room. I could tell you that it had, fantastic patio doors, and where the television was and where the sofa was in relation, because I like to teleport sometimes into people's houses. And the cat was sat down, and I said, you look over your right shoulder to the cat every night to say goodbye to it in the living room. And she was astonished. And I said, and I described her walking along the Jurassic coast. And I said, you've got a static caravan on the Jurassic coast. I said, it's beautiful. It's overlooking the sea. And I said, do you know what? Your cat's in your backpack with you, and it's walking with you. And she said, she was so astounded. She started crying. And she's like, every night I'd look over the shoulder, I'd say goodbye to my cat. I miss it so much. It was absolutely beautiful. We have got a static caravan on the Jurassic coast. And I said, but don't you realize? I said, your cat's always with you. I said, it's a metaphor. It is in your backpack, by the back of your heart. It's making me emotional. And she was so taken aback. And I said, you need to spend more time on the coast. I said, you need to heal. I said, you need to go with your family. I said, you're going to have so much fun because your extended family is going to come. She said, Diane, we are going in a few weeks' time. I can't believe you've been there. I said, it's fantastic. And the lady next to her had recently lost a grandparent. And I said, your gran is telling you to look after yourself. I said, she's giving me so many orange foods right now. It's making me laugh. I said, making orange soup, get a butternut squash, get some pumpkin. I said, put some turmeric in. And I said, and you're also being advised to drink fresh orange juice and look after yourself. You haven't been eating, you've been grabbing food. And she said, do you know what? When she was terminal, she only wanted to be fed orange foods. And she says, you've just reminded me of me looking after her in the last few weeks.
That's just amazing. Really, so precise as well. Diane, I'm going to have to come to either a workshop or one-to-one. I want to know about my cat Bamboo.
Oh,
He's adorable, but I often wonder what he thinks. So
oh.
anyway, what I wanted to ask you as well, what are the angels thinking about the state of the world right now? Because there's so many people obviously worrying, and I advise people not to watch the news too much because that just makes it worse and put the fears in you. But do you ever have any indication from your angels or your spirit guide or people in spirits about that?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky time, isn't it, at the moment? A tricky time. There's so much, there's so much conflict and so much aggression and masculine ego energy, we call it. So it doesn't mean all males are egotistical. It just means that it's that fighting masculine energy. Women's energy is much softer and more motherly and more nurturing and intuitive. Masculine is more of a doing energy, a getting things done. And that's where the clash is coming, because it's a bit like Brave New World. You put lots of alphas in charge and borderline narcissists at times, and you're going to get all of that clash. So really, what spirit and what angels are asking us to do is for men and women to return to the source of the heart, to return to the source of feeling energy. We're spending so much time in our head, on our computers, on our electrical devices, on worrying and not trusting, that we're becoming more disassociated from our vibration of our heart, our yin energy. We are time poor. We are overstressed and overworked, and all this electric magnetic current is too charged all of the time. So what they're asking us to do is to slow down, retreat, lock down at the most positive aspect of our consciousness, brought out the best in people. It also brought out polarities of a lot of fear and a lot of mistrust, and it polarized. And this is exactly what's happening in earth terms with all the conflict. It's polarizing. And the heart energy in yoga is saying, actually just come back to the feeling sense, the feminine sense. You know, even in the Yoga Sutras, controlling the fluctuations of the mind can be seen as a masculine concept. From a tantric concept, it's saying, don't control anything. Don't control anything, because controlling is saying, I'm going to be doing, and this is how it's going to be. If we just relinquish the control and we say, I'm going to return to what is right. And what is right is being around people we love, being around people with ethics, being around people who we can love and show love to and move beyond our own programming. And I think that's what the angels are saying. Return to us, give us your trust. We have, and the more we vibrate at that level, then the more it's got a vibrational consciousness, gravitational pull that other people are going to go. If people that are open and conscious are struggling, then it's pulling us all down again. It's pulling that vibration. So I really do, on the flip side to that, I feel like this year has been a bit tricky in January because we're leaving behind our past. We're leaving behind a really turbulent year for a lot of people. And we're being asked to move into this new paradigm where it's actually going to be beautiful. There's some amazing energy around at the moment. Just believe in it. Set your intentions. Manifest that. Manifestation is returning to the heart.
Absolutely. That's such beautiful words. And, when I always sort of refer to the heart as well as obviously the love energy. And when you are into the heart, really fully feeling into the heart, it's not possible to be anxious when you really truly are in the heart. And I often have the metaphor of, when you throw a pebble or a stone into water and it creates those little ripples. And actually, when we are into the heart and we can have beautiful intentions, we send beautiful intentions to the world for peace or to someone we know, and then we can actually make it bigger and bigger by reaching more and more people. And because we are beings that actually feel the energy of others, there's good intention, you will feel it. And this beautiful vision will travel and reach as many people as possible. So always keep in the positive when we can, and in the heart can also help other people. And, that's the lesson that really we should learn at school.
Yeah.
And start doing that when we're little children. Actually, we can do that when we're little children, but it's just, with don't do this, don't do that, it's bad, you can't do this work, you'll never earn money, we are stopped at every post, aren't we, when we're a child?
Yeah.
But you're right, we're getting into a phase now where it's going to open up into, I think, a very different world. And it might be difficult to start with, but it's for the best.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's true, the ripple effect. What I try and do with, I guess, coming back to the readings, I like to reassure people to say, look, and in the teacher training for the academy and with my friendships, that's one of it. People have asked, what's one of your resolutions this year? It's so simple for me to cultivate the friendships that I have and love. Those people, to grow the seed. That seed is planted in the belly. The belly is the mother is the nurturing, and the heart center is to be more present with them. If I've not thought of them in a certain way and thought, oh my gosh, I really want to spend time with them, how can I spend time with them? Do it. Don't just talk about it, do it. Because those people are so important to me. I love them so much. And also to say to them, look, don't ever think if you do something that triggers me or frustrates me, I'm not going to forsake you. You would have to do something so radically bad to me that was so disloyal. And even then, I would say something to you. Not to shame you, but to say how it made me feel. But I've got such enriched friendships that I can't imagine that, because 1,000 times before an event where they may have disappointed, they may have annoyed me in that moment, where they've let me down because their time seems more precious than their time, because they're anxious personality types. So they're not doing it to deliberately hurt me. They're just allowing themselves to be led by anxiety, or, you know, as an example. And I say, I hold you in such high regard. And all of the times I've seen you, I hold you in such high regard. This is why I love you.
Yeah.
So trust me. You know, anything you say, I will do my best not to judge you. I will do my best not to react to you, because you're walking your path and I'm walking my path. And your path has been very, very different from mine.
Absolutely. And we're teaching each other lessons as well as we go along, and we're learning, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So Diane, coming to the end of this beautiful talk with you, I wanted to know if you had anything else to add that you thought would be useful that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, just from a humility perspective, I think, yeah, that's a really lovely word. I love the word humility, because it's a real sense of being equal, and just encouraging people. You know, if you don't know, well, where do I start? I feel like, you know, it's great advice, it's a great chat that you've had, but I feel inadequate. I don't feel like I've got the skills that you have. Nobody talks to me. I don't know what you're even talking about with the spirit guide, etc. I think having intention to just have a little prayer, to sit and meditate, to listen, because each of us have the same gifts. It's the attunement that might be slightly different. It's the starting and the repetition and the belief that is slightly different. I've been very fortunate that I had what I would call a dark night of the soul moment on more than one occasion, where I have questioned my own mortality and my own life, and been to the darkest of dark places that I could ever perceive being in again. I can't think of a moment that I would ever, there's nothing in this world that could ever take me there again, that's so dark and so deep. So I'm very lucky that the only way from that is up to the light. You know, in that darkness there's still a flicker of light and still a flame burning, and that's my soul flame burning, and that wanting to live. So starting with a prayer, starting with buying yourself a set of cards, lighting some sage, lighting a candle, having some quiet time, you know, to start tuning in a little bit more, because we've all got the potential, we've all got the gift. So
Absolutely, we
we
can all do it. Just needs a little bit of training. So Diane, it's been really, really lovely talking to you. And before you leave me, I would like to thank people for listening to this session, to this interview. And I want to say, well, please subscribe to my channel, of course, because that will help me grow. And I thank you very much in advance, and put a little thumb up if you liked it. And Diane, would you be okay if people want to communicate with you and ask questions? I can put all your details, of course, in the comments below the video. Would that be okay?
Of course it would. I'd love to hear from people, and yeah, just to connect and to help each other, I think is the way forward.
Is the way forward. Thank you so much, Diane, for being my guest today on my channel. And I wish you all the best until I see you next.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care of yourself.